Okay. All right, work session is on progress then. First one is 212 South Elm. Were there any comments from board members on this one?
I think it looks fine.
So I thought it looked good. I just had one question about the window trim. They didn't draw it the way it is on the house. But in the drawing, it all matches. So I would assume that the addition is actually going to match what's on the house and not be like drawn. But that was my only question.
Gotcha.
They're not, because I wouldn't imagine they're changing the whole. But,
It's a good clarification.
yeah, and I thought, well, it's a public hearing anyway, so maybe just wait if they're here.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, yours is.
Oh, it's way over there. Yeah, sorry. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
The only question that I had was regarding the chimney. It looks like the existing materials like a concrete block or something like that. But then the new one is clad in a stone, which is really, really nice. So I wasn't sure if they were going to try to use that same stone cladding on the existing or not. It looks a little funky where the existing concrete block and the stone cladding come together. Good, how are you?
Oh, it's painted. I see.
Continue, I wanna, let people know who are online, this is the work session, so, we're discussing obviously sales, we won't take comments or anything until. There won't be any chat or there won't be any answers during this first. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good comment.
2120.
Yeah.
We're on the first one, yeah.
That was my only comment.
Okay. Did you have any?
I was okay with it.
Okay.
This is a resubmission.
Yep. All right, the next one we have is 471 Hawthorne.
I had one suggestion, not do or die, but they gave consideration to the, leaving that little flat roof connector where it is, and then maybe raising the elevation, the bearing height of that little addition, the hip roof might differentiate it off the main house a little bit. Anyway, I'm not gonna, other than that, I'd approve it either way, but I think that would be preferential.
So could you explain that again?
I'm sorry?
Could you explain that again?
Well, okay, you've got, if you look at this lower level, that's all flat. I'm saying if you left that flat and then kick that up to a higher bearing point, it would differentiate itself off that little connector. But it's a non-binding suggestion.
I didn't have any comments.
I think I just was wondering if they're doing anything on the foundation on this one. I don't remember seeing any note on there. Seemed like a lot of exposed foundation, and I was curious as to what the treatment was gonna be.
I think the contrast between the concrete and the one story above it, again, kind of, for the rear view, kind of lays it back in with the house pretty well. So I'm not too concerned about the concrete being exposed.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily that it was exposed. It was just what the finish was gonna be. That was my question. Cause it didn't really indicate it.
Uh-uh.
So,
Well, they didn't
you know,
call it
if it's
material.
concrete, that's fine. But, is there any kind of finish on it? It's a lot of concrete. So,
It's difficult to tell what the existing is on these photos.
Right.
too. Is it,
So, I mean, that it is, the main house is exposed concrete.
right,
Okay.
is it?
Yeah.
But is it
Think so.
intended to match the existing?
right, that's
Oh,
kind of my
okay, I
question.
got you. By color or texture.
Yeah,
Fine.
pretty much, that's all I'm saying.
So a rubbed finish.
Or, you know, painted texture.
Yeah,
We've
okay.
talked about that. Previous. Carol, do you have anything?
No. I'm
Okay.
fine with it.
The next one we have is 120 West Swan. Any comments on this one from board members?
None for me.
I thought it
None.
looked good.
I think it looks good. I just have a quick question. There's some areas of existing foundation where there's an optional limestone veneer to be applied. And I was just wondering if how the face of that stone veneer, if it's applied to those existing areas, will it stand proud of the band board and the siding above? Or in the existing condition, is there enough room to recess that so it'll look like an original foundation alignment? That's what you mean.
Are they fully intending on doing that, or is that an option?
It's an option, but
Yeah,
I think it
okay.
needs to be discussed in case they select that option. Well,
Now, the owner's here, he can answer that one time. Too.
One, over here, it doesn't say option for this part.
Yeah, I didn't pick up
For
the
some reason, I
option.
thought it was an option, but
I think there were, if I'm remembering correctly, I think they were doing it on the,
Over here.
yeah, on the addition, but then there were some areas of existing foundation where it was optional.
Yeah,
But then this is optional, yeah. But then this is, I see. How that works either.
Yeah, it's just a question. I mean, there may be sufficient space there that it would look aligned properly, but I think it would look strange if it projected 2 inches in front of the band board and the siding.
Yeah, it seems like it would be better to just leave it be
Yes.
if they were
I-
gonna do
yes.
that, yeah.
mhm.
optional 21.
If-
Yeah, it
if there's
says
not-
optional
There's not
on
space.
A5, doesn't it? No.
If we're proving the whole package and they select that option,
Mhm.
then it would be installed. So I think we need to clarify what the existing condition is and how it would look if they do decide to install that stone.
Okay. Next one on our list is 16 South Maple. Any comments?
I was just wondering what was going to be used to enclose the space below the porch. I mean, it looks like the railing work and everything is just an in-kind replacement, but there is quite a substantial opening on the side below the porch. And there is nothing indicated on the drawings about what will be used to enclose that area.
I was just curious about the history of this one. Did they proceed without getting approvals first and now it's?
So from what I understand, they were in the process of kind of already completed it and it was observed. Sport, especially, and you took the absolute.
Okay. And I don't even know what you call them, but the spindles on the upper, are those being replaced? as well?
We're gonna have to ask that question. Maybe those. Remain. But, yeah. Question, I think. Within the office, with the owner, so you're gonna have.
All right.
I'm assuming they remain because they didn't replace the posted, but it's worth the question.
All right, next one for discussion is 102 West Rose. We saw this one, or three of us saw this one.
We on Jackson or Rose?
Rose,
Jackson.
Jackson's a pre-approval.
Okay. Good. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so 102 West Rose.
I didn't have any comments.
I'm still not exactly sure what they're doing.
Yeah, I had some scope clarification questions as well. Like, is all of the horizontal siding being replaced? Or is it just going to be infill? Because that's not really clear. And if they are replacing all of the siding, what will the trim look like? Because there's no indication of trim around the windows or at the rakes or at the corners. And then also, it's a little bit hard to tell because the photos are so small, but it looks like the front porch on the north elevation drawing, it looks like the steps are different than what's in the photograph. And I was wondering if that's just a drawing or if there's actually going to be replacement of those steps. And then on the south elevation, there's a new sliding glass door that looks like it's about 2.5 or 3 feet above grade. And I was wondering if there's going to be a deck there or stairs that transition to grade and, what will that look like?
Yeah, so the windows, they call out the size, but are those fixed windows with muntins, a big crisscross? Are they double hung windows or? I don't see that information here. But what they are, and then are there for the sliders on the east or, yeah, the other windows? I guess I don't understand exactly the style of the windows and if they're all the same style. So you have slider windows that I'm guessing those are just a 1x1 light. There's no divider. But the other ones, I don't know if those are what the division is or what that is. As well, and then the garage door is shaker panels. I'm not exactly, I don't know what that means. If that's
All right. Few clarifications. Next one is 864 Newport. That's the detached garage.
I had a question about the braces
Mhm.
in the middle column and what the height is, if there's enough clearance to avoid bang your head against it. Are those structural or are they just decorative? And is that a code issue about how high those? So the middle column on the east elevation has these braces that are attached. Is there a minimum height clearance?
Like headroom clearance or anything like that? No.
No, okay. The way it's drawn, they just appear to be set kind of low.
You might want to suggest they raise it a little bit, but I don't think there's a code issue there either, so.
Yeah.
I think it would look better if you back them up a little bit.
I mean, I looked at that and thought just from the character of it, I wondered why maybe they just consider, using a Simpson moment anchor instead of having to diagonally brace that too and eliminate them all together. But I think the idea of maybe moving them up makes them a little bit less of a feature. I just wasn't sure where that came from. What drove the scale of it.
That was the only comment I had.
I just had a few comments about perhaps making a few tweaks that would better coordinate the house design with the garage, like the gable end returns. Maybe they could do something that's similar to the returns at the house gambrels. And then also to, if they would use a slightly deeper fascia, I think it would coordinate better with the house. And then just perhaps consider adding the triangular gable louvers to the garage that match the ones on the house, just to coordinate the two a little bit better.
Yeah, their eave is sort of odd, how they've done the gable end of the eave compared to what the house looks like. I'm not sure why they, just don't do it like the house. It seems like actually, because they could do it like the dormer. And the gable end, make the gable of the garage look like that dormer, and then the eave would look better. Because the shed roof coming off of it could be whatever. And then on the elevation for the west elevation and the east elevation, they show it as though there's the roof in no way overhangs the building, which it has to at least a little bit. I would recommend doing that one as well, the same way as that dormer is done. I think that would be a nice way to do this. Just have a, and that's a fairly small overhang, but you have to have, it needs to be overhanging a little bit.
Mhm.
And then it also doesn't say what the roof shingles are, if they're just going to match what's on the roof or,
Yeah.
you know,
At the house.
yeah, on the roof of the house, right? It says to be selected, but now's the time.
Yeah.
It looks like the intent is to have an overhang, so I think that elevation on the cover sheet is inaccurate
Uh-huh,
as opposed to what it
Mhm.
infers in the plan. which would be
right,
good
it's a
thing.
little funny.
Yeah.
It's maybe not drawn quite right.
Yeah.
Because you could just but anyway, I'm not sure where their plate height is there or what the
Yeah.
problem is with it, but
Yeah.
something's funny. And
It's good.
I saw something in here that kind of indicates that those slant braces are structural, the way they're in the framing detail that showed it, so. I guess they're trying to get a little lateral stability out of it.
the only other thing I was wondering about is they show those
There you go.
post supports with
Yeah.
the column as just this flat thing, and it's, gets to be such a narrow column. It obviously cannot be dead flat like that. That's just going to rot away. But I might want to think about the proportions of those two things together. One seems pretty wide compared to the other to me.
Mhm. Yeah. Ken, to your point, I mean, I did see that detail as well, and I figured that's what they were intending. I think I was just maybe wondering if they did consider, those are typically like the fasteners that they have there are kind of utilitarian
Yeah,
and not typically something you would use as a finish. There's other ways to connect if you want it to be a feature, there's
Yeah.
other ways to do it that are a little more architectural. Um, but I do know that Simpson makes different products that you can make the post to beam lateral bracing, in a moment connection and just eliminate it
Yeah.
altogether. Or clean up the detail so that it's a little, um,
are they wrapping the post or not? I don't really.
yeah, it doesn't,
It doesn't look like it.
Okay.
It just says 4x4, so
Pretty
yeah,
cool.
it would help to wrap them, but
yeah.
No, it's an issue for discussion.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just sort of clarification, really.
The rest of them are all pre-approved.
Yep, the rest of them are. I give this 5 minutes or so. So Mark, are you enjoying the new Great Rivers Greenway headquarter location?
Yeah, it's nice.
Central,
Yeah.
lots of
Yeah.
places to
I mean,
eat.
Delmar was great too.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but the new space is really nice.
Where did you move to?
The
Welcome everyone to the Architect Review Board meeting. We just finished our work session. So the official meeting is now underway. I know we have some people here in person and some online as well. So welcome everyone. Introduce Kelly Campbell and Andrew Klosterman with the city. We also have Sarah Richardson, who's our city council liaison, who's joining us online. Carol Duncan, Angela Thompson, Mark Vogel and Ken Burns and myself, Bob Buckman, were 5 volunteer architects on the board. First item of business are we have meeting minutes from June 2nd, and I believe there are 3 of us present, or no? 2.
3 of them.
Okay. So I'm just looking for my meeting minutes. There we go. Yeah, I had to remember how many of us were here. Yeah, so Carol and Angela. So with that, do I have a motion on the meeting minutes from June 2nd?
I'll make a motion to approve the June 2nd meeting minutes as submitted.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, the June 2nd meeting minutes are approved. All right, next step is we have some pre-approvals, which came about. And we'll do those next. So as I ask for a motion, I ask board members refer to the agenda handout. First one is 242 West Jackson. Do I have a motion?
move to approve 242 West Jackson as submitted.
With amended
Amended
elevation?
elevations from June 14th. Thank you.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, opposed? All right, that's approved. Next, we have number 3 Selma Court. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 3 Selma Court with the clarification that the panels alongside the new door are glass per the notes.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Number 3 Selma Court is approved. Next, we have 1318 Selma. Do I have a motion?
move to approve 1318 Selma with the understanding the post and railing will match the submitted detail.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye, opposed. 1318 Selma is approved. And then lastly, 462 East Jackson. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve 462 East Jackson as submitted.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, opposed. 462 East Jackson is approved. All right, at this point, if we call your project and you're present to just come up and introduce yourself at the microphone and we'll discuss your project. If you're online, just raise your hand and Kelly will add you to the Zoom chat. First project, public hearing, we have 4 of those first. The first one is 212 South Elm. Is there anyone present for that project? Hello.
Can you hear us?
Hmm. Yeah. Did you check the chat? Is there a-
Oh,
She's on chat.
Okay.
We can't see you, but, and we can't hear you.
Maybe they have their mic turned off.
can we?
Yeah, we can do it by chat, I guess. to some
Sure.
degree.
Right, let's, I think there was a question about window trim.
Yeah, I just had a question about the trim as it's shown differently than the existing trim. And I was wondering if the trim will all match the existing trim for the windows and doors, or if it's going to be, actually, will it simply be consistent through the whole house? I assume so, but wanted to ask the question. Match existing trim. Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments from the board?
Yeah, I had a question. The existing stone chimney, I think, is a really striking, beautiful element of the existing house. And so I appreciate that on the addition, you're using stone veneer on the chimney, but it looks a little funny on the elevation where the new stone, it looks like it's abutting directly up against what is a concrete block a chimney. And so I would just make the suggestion, consider wrapping the existing chimney with that same stone. I think it might enhance the look and make that look less like an addition and more like it's, you know, a fully thought about, you know, feature of the house.
They don't really identify what the material is. It could be a
Right.
cut stone veneer.
Could be, it's painted.
Okay.
Again, it looks to me a little awkward to have the natural stone, but more of a smooth finish like that. It just makes the addition stand out quite a bit. And again, it's just a suggestion for your consideration.
That's fine. And that's existing. That's not new, is it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I even noticed that until you pointed it out. I was thinking it was all just stone. So I don't know. Is it? Is it a drafting issue?
It's an existing part of the house.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mhm.
So, I-
That was the only comment I had.
maybe they could rub it and colorize it. Where did you see that it's painted?
In the photographs, it looks like it's painted the same colors
Yeah.
as the,
It's like the colorized textured
Yeah.
wash or something.
mhm.
You just want to get rid of the concrete block lines.
Not necessarily, I just, and again, it's an existing feature.
Yeah.
Right.
It
if
just,
it's just
it
a
looked a little
recommendation.
awkward on the
Yeah.
elevation where the stone abuts directly more of
Yeah.
a smooth surface. And the way that it's rendered on, say, the north elevation on the left-hand side,
Mhm.
it appears to be either a cut, a smooth finished stone or a concrete block.
You do see
Yeah,
a
I,
little
I
piece of it
I
there in
can
the,
see what you mean.
picture.
It seems like it would be nice to have that all be stone. I can understand
Yeah. but
why,
it-
it's an expense, but it would be nice.
I guess, it's existing condition.
Yeah,
So
it exists. It's already
It's
there.
not
like that.
like, to me that it could be a suggestion, but I don't know that it's a contingent, part of
Oh, yeah. Right.
I mean, it looks like it
approval.
is
So
stone
it's so hard to tell because the photographs are so
to me.
small.
I wonder if they just,
Flip over the other page.
I was trying to find another picture of it. Is there a third sheet?
We might not have the same ones. Right here.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, okay. Well,
So I mean, I
color it
think
once, they can color it twice.
we have the trim clarified and I guess we could just make a note, Mark. Because I'm not seeing any answers.
Could we just?
But I-
make it
but I
an
think-
Option?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. With that, is there anyone else present or online that wants to make a comment about 212 South Elm? And hearing or seeing no one, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 212 South Elm with the understanding that the trim on all the windows of the new addition will match those on the existing house. And they have the option of having the same stone veneer on the existing CMU fireplace that there'll be on the new part.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? All right, 212 South Elm, you're approved and good to go. Have a good evening. Thank you. Next, we have 471 Hawthorne.
Hi,
Good evening, Mike.
how's it going?
Good.
Mike plays as architects for the record.
Were you planning on any finish on the concrete? I was curious. I didn't see a note, or maybe I missed a note.
Yes, we're not going to leave it bare concrete with form lines or anything. It'll either be rubbed or a parge coat put on it.
Okay,
So right now, that's kind of the finish that's on the house right now. It's more kind of a sand. I guess after the weathering and all, it's kind of a sand finish, but it doesn't have any form lines or anything like that. We will match that as close as possible.
okay. Thanks.
I just had one suggestion or give you consideration. It's not a make or break thing to me, but had you thought about possibly leaving the flat roof where it is and then the balance of the addition, raise the bearing heights, so set off that flat roof area?
We looked at that, but what we've got is going on. In fact, even on the east side, there's a porch
Okay.
and all these one-story pieces of the house will have the same gutter
Okay.
line all the way
That's my
around.
question. Thank
So
you.
that's what we're working at.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right. With that, thanks, Mike. I'll ask, is there anyone else present or online that wants to make a comment on 471 Hawthorne? Hearing no one or seen, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve 471 Hawthorne Avenue with consideration that the exposed concrete foundations will be rubbed or colorized to match that of the existing home.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, opposed? All right, you're approved, Mike.
Thank you.
You're
I think we
welcome.
might have the next one too.
Oh, okay. You're not going anywhere. All right, next we have 120 West Swan. Comments from board members. I think there was a
And
question.
Peter Bacher, the owner, is here too. So
Oh, welcome.
I think it looks. I think it looks really great. I just had a question about the areas where there's an option to add a 2-inch limestone veneer to the existing concrete. And can't really tell in the photographs whether or not there's enough recess below the bandboard and the siding to keep that new veneer from standing proud in front of the wall above it, because I think that would look applied rather than original.
Right, and I agree with that. Right now, there's no room. So that band board is put up pretty much right up against the concrete. So
There's about a 3/4 of an
Yeah.
inch
Yeah,
right now, but it's 2 inch that would be. the
yeah.
addition.
So you would have a good 1.25 inch standing proud in front of if you only have 3/4 of an inch.
Maybe a little less than that, but maybe
Yeah, yeah,
an inch.
yeah. To me, that just always looks applied rather than original.
Right.
And really, it's such a nice house and it's a beautiful addition. I think personally that you'd be better off and it would look more historic just to not go with the option to apply the stone veneer to those existing areas so it wouldn't project.
Yeah, but we did that addition in '04. Ken was a great architect.
We were all in a different tax bracket by then.
Yeah, and it's just concrete there. It's pretty exposed.
You could rub it and colorize it.
Or just,
Be cheaper
Lawrence-
than stone, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Lawrence hated that, that look
Uh-huh.
for so long, so.
what about a parge coat? I mean, that's a nice finish, historic look that would be,
Ken said that would be less expensive too.
What is
Sure.
that? What's that?
It's, it's not stucco, but you rub it and you get rid of the lines in the concrete and you can colorize it to balance out.
right.
It's kind of a
You could even
slang
score it.
stucco
Yeah, that's
finish.
what I was gonna say. You could score it. Like a lot of the older homes have the scoring
Mhm.
on
It's
them.
certainly cheaper. because
Yeah.
We got a bid on it and it's a lot of stone. that
And
goes
it
there.
gets rid of that dimensional issue too, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that would look really nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, well, we'll look at that.
and we could show you examples of that.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, because it was an option that it's there and we want it to look really nice and historic and blend in. And so if that's an option, that's great. But on the existing, it's tied that there will be recess and will be
Mhm.
Right,
which is closer to the street, which people see.
Yeah, and well, on the new part, you'll be able to frame it appropriately, so it'll align right. So, yeah, okay.
It won't stick out.
Yeah.
correct.
Okay. I think that was the only comment from the board. The historic public hearing. So I have to ask, is there anyone present or online that wants to make a comment on 120 West Swan? Hearing nobody. With that, I ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve 120 West Swan with the understanding that there will be no limestone veneer applied to the existing foundations. Instead, those areas will be treated with a parge coat over the existing concrete.
As an option, please.
Oh, as an option, yes. Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, 120 West Swan's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next, we have 16 South Maple.
How are you?
Great.
Fine.
Thank you.
Chris Saxton.
Chris, welcome. Carol, you had a question? I know.
Yeah, on the side of the porch, there's this void area. What are y'all gonna cover that up with?
Lattice.
Okay,
That's what's on it before. We
Okay.
just had to stop working on it.
yeah, I just wanted to verify that because it's not shown on the
No,
drawing.
No, I already have it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
it'll have lattice on it, 100%.
okay.
Great.
Thanks.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, I had a question. I've just been informed it's called fretwork.
I call it
Thank
Or
you.
fallen
The,
down
the
spandrel.
spindles on the top,
back of the-
it does look like those, yeah, I can't tell from the existing photo, but it looks like those are, you're keeping the existing ones or.
We didn't even touch it.
No,
All we
just
did was
yours.
replace rotted wood.
Mhm.
I didn't know I needed a
gotcha.
permit. So,
Yeah.
I mean, everything that is there was just rotted, like the
Understand.
railing and
Yeah.
stuff, but like the roof is still original. I mean, and so like all of this has not been touched at all.
Just
Yeah, we didn't
asking
even
the
touch-
question if that was being touched.
And it'll be painted, you
Mhm.
know. I mean, we already primed it just to preserve the wood, but you know,
Yeah.
we didn't want to go forward. I didn't want to make anybody mad.
That's great. That's great to see you doing it that way.
Well, yeah, I just, you know,
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that was it on the comments from the board. Public hearing, is there anyone else present or online that wants to make a comment on 16 South Maple? With that, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve 16 South Maple with the understanding that the area below the porch and the sides of the steps will be enclosed with lattice.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, you're approved.
hey, thanks.
Good evening.
All right. What happens next? What happens next?
Oh, I'm sorry.
What happens next?
Oh,
This will go to neighborhood. Oh, okay. Did they come out and look at it or something? No. You'll be notified if you do anything else. Oh, okay. Thanks, guys.
So do we paint yet, or do we put the lattice up, or we get the permit? Gotcha.
Awesome. Thank you.
okay. You bet. Next we have 102 West Rose.
Hi, guys, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome.
All
So
right,
I
welcome.
took notes. Thanks for the good questions. And I'm so sorry that it doesn't say on the north elevation and on the south elevations, those windows are in fact double hung. That was one of your questions, and that is an error. In getting quick drawings done, that was somehow left off.
So when you say they're double hung, it says double, well, it doesn't say
So-
double hung. It says 36 by 51, for instance, on south elevation. It says 36 by 51 interior grid window. So
So
what does the grid look like?
So the grid looks exactly as it's drawn. It's a 2/2 pattern. And then so you can see the numbers on each window, right?
Yes.
Like number 8 and 9. Those are both double hung windows. And they are the same size. The window number 12 is the only window that is a fixed picture window, and it has no grids whatsoever, really just to keep in line with the slider that's in the same room. The egress window and all of the basement windows have no grids. They are sliders, and we switched those to sliders basically just to save money.
So
I'm sorry, I said slider. It's a hopper style window that has a bar on it that looks like the slider that's above it. So if you look at the east elevation, do you see how the sliders have no grid? That's just where the bar is for sliding it.
So the windows number 10, those are
Yes.
sliders with no grid. And
Correct.
are they the same size as the existing opening?
Yes, ma'am. We're not changing any, like, we're not cutting into any of the brick. We're not changing any of the, one of your questions was about the, like the window trim. The only thing that's being changed is that all rotten wood, and there is a lot of it, all rotten wood is being replaced with exactly what was there. And it will all be wrapped with the aluminum when they redo the siding. And all of the siding is being replaced due to rot. And we are replacing it with the same exact scale and size, but instead of it being rotten wood, it's going to be insulated vinyl siding. The only change to the siding is where you see that bump out on the north elevation. We're going with a board and batten pattern there, just to increase the, it looks a little bit taller, it kind of gives it an updated look versus the cedar shake that and then windows 1, 2, 3, and 4, all of those are operable double hung windows. And there is one vertical grid creating a 2/2 pattern, just like it's shown in the elevation.
In the case of window number 2, that looked like that would be 3 of those gang together.
It
Three
is, you are
double hung.
correct.
Okay. So then you have one double hung left on the whatever side, the west side. Does that have a grid?
It was actually something that my window salesperson, they had it like in their warehouse. So it was just a freebie. And it is a double hung operable window with no grid. And that's pretty common. Like I was actually looking all throughout the neighborhood. I live in the neighborhood. This is my third house in the neighborhood. And a lot of the windows on the backs of the homes are different than the front, just as a cost saving measure. Like for perhaps the people that live directly behind 102, they have replacement windows and they don't have any grids.
So you have one double hung window then without the division?
Yeah, the window's only 24 inches wide.
It's a teeny tiny window on a garage where you can't even see it. The angle of the garage and the side mudroom area turned this so that this part of the house is like facing my neighbor's backyard.
Yeah.
So that window though is not the same size as the existing opening, right?
Correct. We are changing that very slightly. It's all completely rotted and we're going to have to cut it out and reframe it anyway.
Mhm.
And I really feel like, quite frankly, it's a safer window. It makes it harder to steal something when it's narrow and it's taller. And that's a really tall expanse of siding over there.
Mhm.
But we will keep it in the existing position.
All right. I think there was a question also about your garage door.
It's
You're cutting out. We really can't hear you.
Hold on a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any way, can you tell me if you can hear me now?
Yeah.
That's better.
Is that better? Okay, I went outside. Sorry. The window that's in the garage wall that's there now, it doesn't open at all. So there's no ventilation or anything. So this new window will also be operable.
And so what will the garage door look like? It says shaker panels, but
So
what
it-
does
it
that
looks-
mean?
It basically has, instead of well, let's see, how can I describe it? Just like a shaker style cabinet in your kitchen where it has a flat panel and then there's like a 2-inch wooden raised panel around the exterior of the panel.
Right.
And that's what the garage company called it. So that's
Got
why I
it.
put it on there. There's just no glass on it. It looks a lot like the shutter, but some garages, how they have like a long panel that goes left and right, or they have like 4 or 5 little panels, but the center of the panel is pushed out. This one is not pushed out. It looks more like a shaker style cabinet. And it's just all white.
Okay, thanks.
And
You had a
Um,
question about the stairs by the slider.
yeah, there's a patio door there that's just kind of suspended. There's no stair,
Correct.
there's no deck. What's planned there?
So that's a good question. So basically, depending on the budget, when this is all done, I was the one that told y'all the last time that the basement flooded, but it was supposed to be a dry basement. So it kind of changed the scope of phase 1 and phase 2 of this project. I may have to like press pause and just cover it with a board and like make it to where it is inoperable until I can decide on budgetary decision on pouring cement steps and doing a patio made of cement or doing a deck. And it really just depends on pricing.
You may have a building code issue with having that door suspended so far above the grade. So you would have to consult with the building department about what they would allow there, because that does create quite a dangerous condition.
What if could we put in the approval or the pre-approval that we would have wooden stairs built just for temporary? Like, I'm fine with paying the carpenter to do temporary stairs until I decide.
It would be cheaper and easier if you just put a temporary rail on it and you just remove later when you build your deck
A temporary rail where,
on the exterior. So you
Across
could-
the
you could also
door.
Close the door, but there'd be a rail in there so nobody could walk out. Just be
well,
like-
that's what I was saying initially, is that like we could just put a rail across it so nobody could come out. But I thought she was saying that wasn't good enough, that it needed to have like more, like the building code might not pass it for occupancy with that.
Right.
So
and
I'm asking.
Actually, Andrew Klosterman, who's here with the city building department, was indicating that he would have to verify what Webster would suggest or accept in that area as code compliant safety as a temporary measure. So y'all would, need to confer about that. And you might want to do that before you decide to put in any stairs or anything.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if we're gonna do concrete for the patio, the guys have already explained it to me. They come in and they pour the concrete steps and then they build your patio separately. So like if you guys want concrete stairs there, I can put concrete stairs there because they can go in either way. The only thing is, if I end up doing a deck instead of concrete, I'd prefer to have proper deck stairs that match. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I would suggest that you would be in the best interest of your project just to omit doing any steps at this time and to confer with the building department about how that door could be properly closed off so it isn't a hazard. And when you do decide what you want as far as a deck or patio, then you could come back to the city under separate permit for that.
Okay, great. I'm just literally trying to get the windows figured out. That's what this is.
Right.
This is what this is for.
I've had numerous projects, put a railing, co-conform railing. And some cities even let you just put a screw in it and activate the door, but I don't know that homeowners don't take the screw out, so. But
Wow.
that's the most express way to get there. London, I guess, just work that out with the building department. We can approve this with the condition that the sliding door would have a protection, means of protection agreeable to the city.
Well, I have
Sure
some other
thing.
questions too. Since you're having all the siding replaced, there's really no indication of what the trim will look like around the windows and the doors, and if there'll be any trim at the corners or in the rakes of the gables. There's no indication of what that looks like.
It's going to look exactly the trim. Are you talking about the fascia
Yeah, I'm
At the
talking
top
about
or
trim-
around the windows?
Window trim.
the trim around the windows, the doors. That's going to match the existing.
Yes, ma'am, because there really isn't anything other than there's just a lintel above each window where the brick is. And you really can't see the lintel. It's just an old lintel and we are keeping them.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about in the sided areas. Is there going to be any corner
It'll look-
trim in the sided areas or no?
No, it's going to look exactly like it does
Okay.
now. There is a I don't know what you would call, I guess it's kind of like an exterior windowsill and it's just rotten wood and we are replacing it, but it will look exactly like it does now.
Okay, so all of your trim will be replicated to match the existing.
Yes,
So-
ma'am.
On that same note, you're putting the board and batten though on the front.
Mhm.
And that trim won't really work the same way with a board and batten siding. You need to have a trim around the windows or something. You can't do the same trim that's there with that horizontal siding. It just won't quite.
What would you recommend?
The,
Standard vinyl window trim work with the J-mold. You're saying this is because of the vertical side.
yeah, the vertical, the battens, if it really has battens on it, they would stand out. So then you have just this odd situation. So it would be nice if you put more like a where all the siding is, if you put a bit more substantial trim around there, I mean, it doesn't have to be huge, but around all those windows so that they all coordinate together.
You're talking about all three in one big piece of trim, correct? Like one frame for all three windows.
I mean, all the windows that are in siding, because you already have two different sidings going on. It would be nice if the windows in those places coordinate, so you don't have too many different things.
I agree that would look nice to
Would
just
you
use.
make a suggestion of like what you would say would be like architecturally
You could have like a
correct
3.5 inch
for the
trim,
side? You're talking. Okay,
3.5 inch trim around the whole thing.
that around,
It's trim that your horizontal siding will tuck into. And maybe on the front elevation of the back, you might have to do some composite lumber because of the dimension.
Mhm.
okay. That's
Yeah.
no problem. We can do that on that garage, like number 4 and number 2. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, number 4 at the garage, with the 3 bay windows, those would be framed out, all 3 of them in one frame, obviously.
Correct. Yeah.
And then I think what Angela's saying is she would also do that anywhere there's vinyl siding. So that also means the rear,
Yeah, the windows and
Okay.
doors on the rear.
all the
Okay.
windows.
No problem.
windows and doors on the south elevation would all get the same trim around them. And also the west.
Okay,
Sorry, Carol.
done.
No, that's fine. I think those are good suggestions. Yeah. And then also too, I was just wondering about the front porch configuration. It looks like the steps at the front porch on the north elevation drawing look considerably different than they do in the photo, but it's really
Yeah,
hard to
that was
see the
just-
photo.
That
So-
really is just an error on CAD. We're not changing them.
Okay.
We're leaving them as is. The
Okay.
only thing that's changing is that we have to repair the concrete, but there's no change.
Okay, I just wanted to verify that since it is different than
It
what's
looks
shown.
weird. Yeah, it was just the way the CAD thing was putting them in.
Okay, that answers the last of my questions.
Okay.
Is it passed?
I think we can make a motion with some clarifications, and I'm not going to repeat them all. Someone here who knows what they know. So I think the clarifications are going to be that all new windows are going to be trimmed out with the 3.5-inch trim in the vinyl siding was one
Okay.
clarification.
And
The
then the
other-
slider to follow code for like securing it until stairs are there.
That all of the double hungs will have a 2/2. Well, I guess that's how you would describe that trim, 2/2, 2/0, right? And that would be all of them except for the one on the west facade. And the hopper windows will have a single grid.
It's not actually a grid. That's just kind of like if you had a double hung window with no grids, you would see the bar where the two windows move. Does that make sense? So like the slider has no grid.
Yeah, no, I realize that. I'm talking about the hopper windows that you have in the basement.
Too light.
Right.
Yes, sir. Yep. They did it to make it look the same.
Yes. And that the garage door is gonna be shaker style. Which I think you already said, so
It's written on the
All right.
elevation.
and then we will make a comment about the doors on the rear being code compliant.
Being reviewed, approved by the city.
Correct.
Was that-
Okay, awesome. Thank you for your
Well, no, I'm just
suggestion.
clarifying with London. So at this point, I'm gonna ask someone else to make a motion. Cause I can't.
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Okay.
And I agree with all that. I'll agree to all of that.
Okay, with that, do I have a motion, please?
Make a motion, attempt to make a motion. To West Rose to approve the submitted with the clarification that all the windows in the sided field will have a 1x3 with 3.5-inch trim
And the doors also in the sided area.
and whatnot.
The doors in the sided area will also have 3.5-inch trim.
And I can't remember what else is there. We have that. The garage door will have a shaker panel look to it. And one other thing.
Code compliant.
Oh, yeah, the sliding door in the rear will have a rail protection or modification of the door to make it code compliant, be verified with the building department.
Yes, sir. I get it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? All right, London, you're approved.
Thank
Have a
you.
good, you're welcome. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye, y'all too.
Next, we have 864 Newport.
Hello,
Good evening. Who's with us tonight?
so my name's Lane Matthews. I'm the builder on this project.
Welcome, Lane.
Thank you, sir.
All right, there's a few comments from board members. Who wants to start?
I can start. I had a question about the on the east elevation, the middle column has two brackets that extend from the column up to the ceiling. I understand that the height of those, there is not a code requirement, but I would suggest, considering that the height of those are high enough so that somebody doesn't hit their head. I know that that's something that I would do. I'm even clumsier than most, but
Sure. So that's the way the engineer drew it up in consultation with the architect. So that's what he specified. I can talk to him about maybe there's a way to move that up higher. But that's why it is that way. That's what the engineer called for.
And I do have a question. Are those structural or is that just decorative?
It's structural. That's what the engineer specified that way for the beam to carry it.
Yeah, I think since Mark mentioned it, for me, the look of that, it's very utilitarian. You're using anchors that typically are hidden.
Yep.
So is there any plan to wrap the column and brace?
So they were talking about it, the designer and the client, whether they were going to wrap it or whether they were just going to wrap the bottom part the way they drew in this final version of the plans. So I don't know if that's changed. I can certainly talk to the architect about if there's something that's more decorative, that, or we can find a way. I mean, we want it to look nice. We don't want it to look utilitarian, but I'd have to follow up with the engineer about what he's willing to spec there, I guess.
I mean, just, in my opinion, if you wanted to keep that as the structural design, personally, I would think I would want to see it all wrapped before I would approve it, because it's just, it's unfinished. So that's just me. Sorry. Mark, go ahead.
That was my only comment.
So the way that the elevations are drawn, the overhangs are a little bit odd. For instance, on the east and west elevation, the roof isn't shown as overhanging the sides, which it would, at least a little bit. And I would recommend it overhanging, maybe what would be nice, the dormer that is on the existing house. It's just a gable. It's not the gambrels one, but it is also just a simple gable. If the roof of your garage matched that dormer, that would be a nice way to coordinate the two things. And rather than the overhang that's there, the shed could come off of anything, the way it's done. It doesn't need to be this size. But I would like to see that with eaves that match the house a bit more, rather than, I'm not sure exactly how that would be built. I have a feeling it would get that pork chop treatment if it were built the way it is drawn right there. And it would be nice if it matched the house instead, and have the trim at the gable like it does on the dormer. And then the column there, the posts, I guess I would like to see them so that the way that's drawn, the base looks wrapped, and then there's a flat surface, which it can't be flat, right? It's not going to be dead flat, or
Sure.
so I'd like to see that drawn more like what it might really be. And it'd be nice if that upper part, if you don't want it to look utilitarian, then I would recommend trimming out the upper part of the post as well, because right now it looks utilitarian.
Sure.
So those are my two comments on that. I think Carol had something else.
Yeah, and I agree with Angela that it would look nice to detail your garage. So it's similar to the house dormers. And just as another thought is perhaps adding triangular gable louvers to the garage to match the ones that's on the dormers, but that's just a suggestion.
Okay. So I understand the truss drawings that have been provided. There is an overhang. I'm not exactly sure why that doesn't show in the elevation, but it is currently drawn, and the roof plan that I got back from the truss manufacturer shows that there is an overhang. So that's a discrepancy. As far as finishing it, I think that they wanted to leave an exposed beam. So what I would like to do is if there's a bracket that we could use that's more architectural, not so just structural, I think that's what they would like to do. If there's something that the engineer would be okay with, but I think that's what they would like.
You might want to just look at some different kinds of brackets that are concealed or that.
Sure.
45-degree slant that you would do a big old tech hole,
Yeah, I mean,
but that's constructed.
yeah, I mean, you can do it with plates and bolts, old style. There's lots of ways to detail that so it looks a little more architectural, exposed like that.
And if it is left exposed and you do an architectural looking plate, I think it might be a good idea to go ahead and beef up the size of those columns because they look rather spindly, especially compared to the size of the base. I mean, it may not be a structural requirement to go to a bigger column, but it would look much better.
Yeah,
So I
and
think-
then coordinate that. So, you have that beam showing across the east elevation, but on, say, the south elevation, it doesn't show that that's what it looks like. That's not what it looks like. So it all needs to be coordinated.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so I think there's just some questions on this one for me personally. It sounds like we've kind of talked through a couple of things that we don't see on the drawings that I think would really need to be clarified before personally I would vote to approve this one. But I think if you could get some decisions made on the questions that we brought up tonight and clarifications on the drawings, maybe we could just postpone a vote and have you just make the changes and decisions and then have it resubmitted. That's my thought.
I agree.
Yeah, I did too.
So Lane is, if you understand what I'm saying,
Yeah.
I think then the question would be is, to get on the next ARB review, you would make those changes and have them back to Kelly by a certain date. Then we could look at it the next time. And if we had some resolve that addressed the comments we made tonight, then we shouldn't have any problems. So.
Okay.
This meeting is July 7th. We've got, some extra time in there. Usually I would need you to have stuff back to me by next Tuesday, but we actually have an extra week. So if you get stuff to us by the end of next week, we'll be able to get you on the next ARB.
I couldn't hear her real well. I think she said by the end of next week. Is that correct?
You would get revised drawings to the planning and development office by the end of next week, by next Friday. We'll be able to get you on the first meeting in July, which is July 7th.
Okay.
All right. With that, we'll table No. And then, I'm gonna move to adjourn because I think we're finished. So, all right, Lane, have a good evening.
Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. Bye.
You're welcome. Good night. Meeting is adjourned.